Welcome back. I'm Stephanie Ruhle. The Senate has left Washington for an August recess, but in the wake of two mass shootings, a number of lawmakers are calling on Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to end that recess so they can vote on gun legislation, specifically a background check bill that has already passed the House. One of those lawmakers, Minnesota Senator and Democratic presidential candidate Amy Klobuchar, joins me now. Senator, thank you for joining me this morning. I want to start with President Trump. He is set to speak in less than an hour. He tweeted earlier teasing a possible deal on background checks, but at the same time tying it to immigration reform. What's your response to that?
He has said this before on background checks. In fact, he said it to my face. I sat across from him after Parkland in the White House, where I advocated for background checks and other gun safety measures, including assault weapon ban and closing the boyfriend loophole to help with domestic assault homicides. And every single time he said, yeah, that's a good idea, add that in. I counted 9 times he said he wanted to do it. Then the next day, he meets with the NRA and he folds. Nothing happened. All we could get done was some school safety funding. Nothing happened. So, yes, I am very cynical when he sends out a tweet like this. I think action would mean him calling Mitch McConnell on the phone, his party, Mitch McConnell does what he wants, and saying, let's have a vote on this, get the Senate open, let's get this done.
Well, what do you...
And we have not seen that kind of action.
What do you specifically want the Senate to do? You've called for this emergency session. Let's say you show up in Washington tomorrow. Let's say Mitch McConnell says, okay, it's game time. What do you want to happen?
I would like us to pass the bill that came over from the House. There's actually 2 bills. Some got some Republican support, and they're basically focused on the universal background checks. So we don't have to start the wheel and the process over again. We can just pass our bills, similar to the bill, by the way, that we had before the Senate that failed to get enough Republican votes, even though it had the votes of people like Senator Joe Manchin, very conservative Democrat. So we would have the votes to get this done. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I think we should push on the assault weapon ban. Magazines, you think about the fact that that guy in Dayton, in less than a minute, killed 9 people. Why does someone like that have an assault weapon with those kind of high-powered magazines? He shouldn't be able to purchase them. So that's the other thing. And then the last thing will just simply be to look at all of the other bills we have. The boyfriend loophole I raised, that is sitting in Mitch McConnell's doorstep in the graveyard of legislation, again, waiting to get done. So those are the things that we have to do. If the president really wanted to get this done, he literally could start calling out Republicans in his own party that haven't voted for it or don't want to support it, and it would get done. Instead, what we're going to get is a tweet. We might get this speech, but you have to see real action. And he always does that, right? He says he wants to get infrastructure done. He doesn't do it. Says he wants to get pharmaceutical prices down. They go up and up and up. He's really good at making bold statements, but then not following through with bold action. And when it comes to guns, I'd like to see his courage match the courage of that mom in the Walmart who had a little baby, who shielded that baby and ended up saving that baby's life when she died herself. That's an ordinary person doing extraordinary things for her family. Well, that's what the president needs to do for this country, and that's what I'll do when I'm president.
We have seen a spike, statistics, a spike in hate crimes in cities and regions where the president held rallies. We know how aggressive the rhetoric has been. Do you tie any of the president's rhetoric to these tragedies?
I actually questioned the FBI director about this just last week because we're seeing this increase in hate crimes. And I asked him, why is this? And he said, well, there may be more reporting, but he admitted under oath that there was, in fact, this spike in hate crimes. I know what it is. It's the rhetoric out there. It's the refusal of the President of the United States when you see Charlottesville happen to condemn it in the way he should. Instead, remember, he said there's 2 sides. Well, there's not 2 sides when you're dealing with white nationalism and the Ku Klux Klan. There's only one side. So you have that going on, and then you have the constant attacks on immigrants and on people of color. I remember during the height of this, a little girl and her family went out to dinner in Minneapolis, Muslims, Guy walks by and says, "You four go home. You go home to where you come from." The little girl looked up at her mom and she says, "Mom, I don't want to eat dinner at home tonight. You said we could eat out tonight." You think of the words of that innocent child. She didn't even know what he was talking about. That's because she only knows one home. That's my state. She only knows one home. That's the United States of America. So in addition to better and stricter and beefing up the enforcement of these white nationalist hate crimes, which we can do, and make sure we're investigating them and doing a better job. It's also the rhetoric, it's the tone, it's the stopping the mean tweets and the hate tweets. And I don't think this guy's going to stop doing that. I think the way you stop that is by winning in 2020 and putting a new president in the White House.
During last week's debate, you specifically called out the NRA for inaction following the Parkland shooting, but you're also from a state with a whole lot of gun owners who want sensible gun control laws. Do you believe the NRA is the enemy, or can you work with them?
I think that there may be people that are part of the NRA that are just there because they're hunters and we want to be part of an organization that are actually willing to support sensible gun legislation and things like background checks. But the NRA itself has been a force of negativity, has stopped legislation in its tracks. This organization has done everything that it can to make sure we don't enact these things into law that would save lives. So I come from a proud hunting state. As I said in the first debate, I look at these things and I say, do they hurt my Uncle Dick in his deer stand? Big hunter. No, they don't. And that's why you're seeing more and more hunters as kids talk to their dads and their grandpas and their moms and say, wait a minute, you like to hunt, but why would it be a problem to put this in place that wouldn't stop you from hunting? Those discussions have been had all over America, and America is ready to act. And so the reason I called the NRA out at that debate in my 30 seconds is I want to make clear this isn't just about systems and what will the Senate do and this and this and this. It's about raw political party and raw political power and someone, a group that has basically controlled the votes of people in the Senate. And now it is time to call those senators out and say, what side are you on? Are you on the side of the NRA? Or are you on the side of those families that are burying their loved ones today? It is that raw of a choice. There is no in between. And unless we talk about it that way and we start talking about it, well, we can do this and this and this, it's very good to have discussions about policy, figures out what will work. I'm glad to do that. But those policy things are right there on Mitch McConnell's doorstep. Let's get them done.
All right. Well, you don't just have 30 seconds here, Senator. You are welcome back anytime.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.